Thank you. American Legion Commander Rich Johnson, Commander Lee Naga of the VFW, Father David Ryan, village board members attending John Shaw and Jim Bedoin, Lake Zurich Police Chief Steve Husak and Acting Fire Chief John Kelly, Medal of Honor winner Alan Lynch, our guest speaker, assembled veterans, current military, residents and families of Lake Zurich. Good morning and welcome to Lake Zurich and today's Memorial Day ceremony. Thank you for all of you for attending. I'm honored to be with you this morning as we remember our fallen service members and the sacrifices that they and their families made on behalf of our country. Memorial Day is a day of remembering the men and women who died while serving, and the usual theme of Memorial Day is remembering. So I started to think, what's worth remembering about a war and dying anyway? After all, for many, Memorial Day has become just another day off, the so-called unofficial start to summer. As fewer and fewer Americans ever really experience military service, currently less than 0.5% serves compared to 12% in World War II, the question becomes more legitimate and more important than might have sounded when I first thought about it. For the uninitiated, to understand what it is we actually remember, they would do well to set aside the romantic notion of past wars. The Roman poet Horace once wrote, "Dulce et decorum est pro patria morti." That's what 4 years of Latin does for you. It is sweet and fitting to die for one's country. Anyone who has served in the military might find the idea that it is sweet and fitting to die for one's country a difficult proposition to support. I know I sure wasn't thinking about actually dying when I served. Modern wars have asked nothing of most, but demanded everything from a select few. Ernest Hemingway gave the poetry of Horace a more modern slant when he wrote, "In the old days, they wrote that it was fitting and sweet to die for one's country. In modern war, there's nothing sweet nor fitting. You die like a dog for no good reason." Well, I'm not prepared to allow that those we remember today died either like a dog or for no good reason. But the stark reality of modern war is that it is oftentimes an ugly and brutal world, painful and terrifying. It is a world whose highest height is simply survival and whose lowest depth is the death of good people, like those we remember today. War reeks with a stench that can never be cleansed from the senses of the combat soldier. It screams in ears that will forever echo with the moaning of the wounded and the silence of the dead. It lives and aches with a pain in the heart that can never really be soothed, and for some that pain is even more intense. I share this community's memories of everyone we remember today. The names have changed, the families were different, the panels on which they reside in the cold granite of a war memorial are varied. But so much about them was the same. Their youth, their enthusiasm, their dedication, their commitment to each other. And I know that the cruelest of combat ironies is that survival itself carries a special, lasting pain. But no matter how hard I grappled with the details, no matter how hard I tried to change them, the endings are always the same. Good men and women die in war. So given all that, we need to revisit the question again, what's worth remembering about war and dying? Quite simply, the only thing worth remembering is the warriors. That's why we're here today. They did not have or seek the safe sanctuaries that sheltered more fortunate sons and daughters. They grumbled the same gripes common to the soldier since the time of Alexander the Great. These women and men who stood up and answered a call that others might not have heard and that many of us never really fully understand. And when it came time to put their butts on the line, they did. They served, they suffered, and too many times they died. And when they died, they did so not so much for honor nor glory, not for the flag or apple pie, not for fame nor conquest, nor a cushioned seat in the kingdom of heaven. They died, as did those we remember today, for what soldiers have always died. They died for each other. They died in an enduring act of love that outshines the misery and horror of war. That love will outlast our frail bodies but must survive forever in the consciousness of a nation losing its sense of shared suffering. It is one of the most pervasive myths of war that the battlefield is the province of fear, hatred, and anger. But fear never made anyone leave safety to aid a wounded body, and hatred never motivated a nurse to work through the night in a blood-soaked operating room to repair shattered limbs and soothe shattered minds. And anger never did cause anyone to share the blasted moments of a man's life rather than let him die alone. A man would not give up his life for $1 million, but on the battlefield, he would risk it willingly for nothing more than the knowledge that he came to help a comrade in need. And it hurts, ladies and gentlemen. It hurts to remember. But think for one moment how much more it would hurt if we ever forgot. For that's what we remember when we remember dying in war. We remember who we are and what we did, and most importantly, how much we loved and supported each other. Thanks to all of you for remembering today and for letting me be a part of your remembrance. Your presence here today and that of the people gathering all across America is a tribute to those lost troops and to their families. Last but not least, we also remember the brave men and women of our police, fire, and rescue departments, our first responders, who gave their lives in the line of duty so that we could all be here today. On behalf of all the families in the village of Lake Zurich, I wish to thank all the veterans and their families here today, all the local veterans who could not attend, and all our local sons and daughters presently serving in the military. I extend our sincerest gratitude and thanks for your sacrifices as you make our country a better place for us. Thanks to all of you for remembering and letting me be a part of your remembrance today. I remember. Now to my official duties, I'd like Commander Rich Johnson and Commander Lee Naga to join me at the microphone. I'm sorry, Tony Roberti. So I have a proclamation recognizing May 25th Memorial Day in Lake Zurich. Whereas Memorial Day, originally called Decoration Day, is a day of remembrance for those who died in our nation's service. And whereas Memorial Day was initially proclaimed on May 5th, 1868 by General John Logan, National Commander of the Grand Army of the Republic, and whereas Memorial Day was first observed on May 30th, 1868, when flowers were placed on the graves of Union and Confederate soldiers at Arlington National Cemetery, and whereas our ancestors and previous generations fought in wars so that future generations would have freedom, and whereas they also helped shape the society that we know today, including our political, economic, military, and social systems, advancements in science and technology, and cultural traditions that enrich our American heritage, and whereas it is important on Memorial Day to reflect on the life memories of military personnel who fought and died for our country, to preserve the rights guaranteed under the U.S. Constitution and to keep our nation strong, and whereas Memorial Day gives us the opportunity to renew our patriotism and to articulate our common desire to live in freedom and seek peace so that our nation's veterans will not have died in vain. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Mayor Tom Poynton, on behalf of the Village Board of Trustees and the citizens of Lake Zurich, do hereby recognize May 25th, 2015 as Memorial Day in the Village of Lake Zurich, and I urge all citizens to honor those who have died in the service of the United States of America. Thank you.